Hi, my name is Eran Schitzer, and I'm the product owner for the Database Migration Service and the Schema conversion tool from Amazon Web Services. As you can hear in my awkward accent, I wasn't born here. Many of my people, when they moved to the U.S., the U.S. dream, they moved to start working in movings. Moved to New York, to San Francisco with the big truck. Well, I took a different route. I went to study engineering and high tech and, did my MBA and joined Amazon, but ended up doing moving as well. So, but not this kind of happy moving. We're talking about database moving. But the picture looks very nice. We actually look like this. So the topic of today, I think when I sent the presentation today, the topic was how does AWS enables DB freedom? And where is this derived from? This is derived from a tweet from our CEO, Andy Jassy, a few months ago about our migration service and the fact that we've migrated over 16,000 databases. We've launched in March of 2016, and by the time Andy tweeted, it was 16,000 and DB freedom, and we're going to talk about DB freedom and what does DB freedom mean. I also hope we'll have time to do a quick demo. But since this tweet in December 30th, which is the last day of the year, or one before that, we've added 7,000 more databases and counting. So we're, one of the biggest moving companies in the world today, and counting. So, I did add this slide here, but I have it later today, later in the presentation, sorry. The slide is, for me, one of the more important ones because it has all the content that we have. You can get it from this presentation, the link. It has recipes on how to migrate and demo DBs. And we have the same slide later. It doesn't say anything right now, just a link. When you open the presentation and you want to practice, this is it. It's on GitHub, so all the information. And we encourage, the community to contribute as well. If you have a sample database, a recipe, we'll be happy to host it over there. Just encourage people, to try out the service, try out the samples, try out how you do it. So, questions. Now I've decided to move to the cloud. I've decided that I want to move my database. How do I do it? Is it difficult? What are my options? What is the opportunity here? If I'm running on a commercial database, such as SQL Server, Oracle, do I have to stay on SQL Server or Oracle? Or is it an opportunity for me to modernize my database layer? But more importantly, am I going to be locked into Amazon? And the question is very important because we in Amazon, we believe in two major principles. One of them is never lock in customers, but the second one is that we build our solution as much as possible on top of open standards, open environments. And how many of you are aware of Aurora? Aurora, for example, is built on MySQL. And now we've launched an Aurora built on Postgres. So that brings us to the DB freedom question. Can I migrate out? Yes, you can migrate out. And DMS allows you to migrate out. The only thing we don't allow you is to migrate between two databases that are not on AWS. Well, you will be able to do that. It's just prohibited in the license, okay? So if the source is on premise or wherever and the target is on Amazon, it can be an EC2 engine, an EC2 database, or an RDS database, that's fine. If the source is RDS or EC2 or an Amazon and the target is on premise, also fine. So, what are DMS and SCT? These are two services or solutions that are basically a single solution. The DMS, the Database Migration Service, is the data mover. You connect from your source to a target. These could be different, and we'll go over the list of the options later. And it moves the data. It's a logical replication, okay? It's a logical replication and migration engine. So it understands the structure of your schema. It understands the table, and you can add rules and define what you want to move and how you want to move it. The second solution is the schema conversion tool, and this is unique because this is an on-premise tool. You download it. It's an application. You install it on your machine, and you connect it to the database, the source database. What does it give you? It gives you a scan of the schema that you want to convert, a report of what are your options and what are the suggested targets, but it also does the work for you, okay? So you can press a button and say, I want to convert my Oracle, I want to convert my Netezza for data warehouses, and I want to convert it to MySQL, to Postgres, to Redshift. I want to show you an example of what I'm talking about. First of all, this is the schema conversion tool. Simply, you select a source, you connect to the source, and you run the analysis. The analysis is this one, okay? So the analysis basically analyzes the schema conversion tool, the schema, in this case an Oracle, and it gives you a compatibility with different engines. So for example, in this case, this is for a MySQL target database, so converting from Oracle to MySQL. For example, I cannot convert 100% of my sequences. Now, there are levels of conversions. There are the ones that I can automatically do, ones that are easy to do, meaning I need to change something very specific and replicate it to the other object, something that would require medium complexity, meaning I'll need to understand a little bit more of the logic and then do the changes. And then there's one with significant actions, meaning I will have to rewrite it. For example, in this case, sequences, I cannot convert sequences because MySQL doesn't support sequences. But it doesn't give you, for example, this is for other objects, but it doesn't give you just one option. For example, this gives you a solution, the same analysis for converting to Amazon Aurora, the MySQL one. And the next one is to Postgres, okay? In the Postgres, you see that you have a better conversion rate. So it also gives you some kind of recommendation. And then when we continue to scroll down, it gives you all the errors and issues and what are the reasons that, and how you can resolve. Again, it does more than that. Once you have decided to convert, you choose the target engine, in schema conversion tool, and it converts the schema for you and gives you a report on what needs to be done manually later on. So this is the schema conversion tool. On-premise installation, you download it from our website. So when we talk about DMS and SCT, we talk about 3 use cases. We talk about modernizing, we talk about migrating, and we talk about replication. When we talk about modernizing, we talk about modernizing your database layer, bless you. We're talking about modernizing either the database or the data warehouse. And this is the list of what we support today in the schema conversion tool. You can convert your schema from an Oracle, Postgres, SQL Server, or MySQL-based engines into Aurora, MySQL, Postgres, and MariaDB. By the way, in RDS, you're familiar with our relational database services. We host 6 different engines on our relational database services. We host Aurora with 2 flavors, MariaDB, MySQL, Postgres, SQL Server, and Oracle. Okay? In the warehouse, you can convert Vertica, Teradata, Netezza, Greenplum, and Oracle to Amazon Redshift. Again, convert your data. You convert your schema. Now, you've converted your schema. Okay, you're ready. Seen this? Now you need to migrate. Okay, so now you move the data. So now I have a list of popular use cases. For example, mission-critical applications that cannot withstand to be offline, to have any downtime. Why is that true? Because I have 2 modes in my database migration service. I have the full load, and I have what we call the CDC, the change data capture. Okay? So I start migrating my entire database, and when I'm done, I start migrating the changes from the CDC log until the 2 databases are in full sync. And that's true for homogeneous migration, meaning MySQL to MySQL, Oracle to Oracle, SQL Server to SQL Server, but it's also true to heterogeneous migration, which is Oracle to Aurora, for example. One of the more interesting use cases that we've seen is the consolidation of shards. MySQL shards, which are popular because of some limitations on the sizes of the database or the configuration of the database. We see customers using DMS to consolidate shards into Aurora because DMS, as I mentioned, is a logical replication. So you can consolidate tables, you can break out tables, you can choose which data you want to move, and I'll demo it later. We do have a video of or a recording, sorry, of a webinar for most of these use cases if you want. It's in the link at the end of the presentation. So you can go and watch where we explain how to do it. When we talk about sources and targets, we talk about 6 sources of targets and what is it? 9, because we added 3 just last week. What I didn't call out here is that we do more than SQL to SQL. Okay, for example, you can migrate a MongoDB, which is a NoSQL, to Aurora or MySQL or Postgres. But you can also migrate Oracle to Dynamo, the DynamoDB, the Amazon DynamoDB. Another option is to migrate Mongo to Dynamo, so NoSQL to NoSQL. And we added support for S3, which is our storage buckets, where you can simply migrate your database to a CSV file and then use the commands of S3 to upload the data to wherever data storage, data warehouse, database, whatever you're using. So these, the Amazon S3, the Dynamo, and Mongo are new. We've released it a couple of weeks ago. Any questions so far, by the way? Sorry. Nothing. All right. Awesome. Yes, please. Okay. So we can talk about the specific issue offline. But again, I'm not aware of the details, but we improve the product. We release a new version of DMS every couple of months with additions to the engine. So, and the limitations are well documented. So there are limitations. There are some limitations on CDC. For example, if you have like changes in stored procedures, they are not replicated to the target engine. What we do replicate is the data. The third use case is the replication, and this is where we see value for customers in, for example, keeping a read replica in a different region. If you have a requirement, for example, you're running in the east and you need a read replica in the west, then you can use DMS to basically keep two databases in sync. One of the more popular use cases is offloading analytics data. Usually we see customers offload data from Oracle, for example, to Redshift. So you can run your analytics on Redshift. Who's a baseball fan? None. Huh? You, Darren, you're a baseball fan. They don't have a team in Portland, right? Okay. So MLB is one of our reference customers, and they use their analytics. They run their analytics. They offload their analytics from their data center to AWS and run the analytics. And as we all know from the movies, that baseball is all about advanced analytics. So these are the three use cases. Again, modernize, migrate, and replicate. One more use case. This is a new addition that we've added to our schema conversion tool, is the data extractors. So what we do today is in SCT, you can install agents on your data warehouse, and the agents extract the data from your data warehouse. They prepare them in a Redshift compatible file, save them locally, and push them to an S3 bucket over the network, where Redshift can then pick up the files, and then you have all the data migrated to Redshift. So the advantage here is that it saves you the time of migrations, because data warehouses are usually huge, have huge sizes, simply sits locally, prepares the files, and push them to AWS. We support today, with this functionality, we support 5 databases, 5 data warehouses: Oracle, Netezza, Greenplum, Vertica, and Teradata. And if you follow us closely, we're adding additional capabilities and additional support for data warehouses. All right. We'll skip this one. Just a few, I'll skip this one. I'll go into our public use cases, and I'll not cover all of them because I do want to show you a demo, which is more important for me than anything else. But we have, again, we cover a number of use cases, and for most of the use cases, we have customers that have done it in a worldwide scale. And one of the good examples is Trimble, that have decided to modernize their oracles into Postgres. So they used SCT to create the schema on Postgres, to convert the schema, and then DMS to move the data. We have Expedia that migrated from MySQL to Aurora, which is a compatible engine, and without any downtime. So Expedia, one of the more popular travel sites, without any downtime. What else? Flipboard, classic to VPC. By the way, that's another very common use case when you move your, when you have an installation on the classic and you want to move to the new environment, to the VPC. You plug in DMS until the databases are in sync, and then you switch your application to use the new environment. This one is a good one because it's apparently I'm married for, I don't know, too many years, but it's a private joke. But yeah, it's apparently the biggest matchmaking site in the world. Is arranged marriages. Okay. And they were with 35 million members, and a migration from MySQL on EC2. So they were already running on Amazon into Amazon Aurora. Very quickly, very efficiently, without losing any matchmaking on the way. So that's one of the, actually my favorite use cases. And all of these are public, and there's a use case behind them, and you can read it online. We have a list of partners. So if you need help, if you feel less comfortable doing the conversion and the migration, and you have a fleet of databases that you want to move, then we have partners that we can connect you with and recommend, and they've built practices around DMS, worldwide partners. Some of them, you know, have advanced practices. When we meet customers, the first thing that we say is try it out. Okay, so you might have one database, you might have a number of databases, you might have 700, 7,000 databases. Okay, it's a project. When I joined, we kept saying it's a one-click migration and it's simple. And it's simple, yes, moving the data itself is simple. The thing is that it's planning and testing and sometimes development, and then the executions come, and then the validation comes. So basically moving your databases or modernizing your database is a project, and you should all look at it as a project. And by the way, some of the services we provide, for example, we help customers convert their schemas. We have a team of experts that sit in the service itself, the service engineering team of DMS, the Database Migration Service, and we take schemas without data from customers and help them convert them in our labs. So if you need help, we're here to help you. Not sure how scalable the solution is, but right now it's scalable enough that we're helping customers day in and day out. What we are doing, as I mentioned, is we are working and improving the automation of the conversion. We're adding more capabilities, we're adding more features, we're adding more targets. Unfortunately, I cannot talk about the roadmap, but we are adding support for additional database as sources. We are adding additional support for databases as targets or data targets, such as S3, for example. But we're also adding support for additional capabilities in the databases. For example, if you have Oracle Spatial, or whatever you pronounce it in Spatial, then we're adding support for conversion for that as well into Postgres. So, how much time do I have? Not too much. All right. So how does it work? So schema conversion tool, I mentioned, it converts, but it can also copy. Okay, so if you have a homogeneous migration, I want to move MySQL to MySQL, Oracle to Oracle, SQL Server to SQL Server, you can also use the schema conversion tool to copy your schema and the database objects. Okay, so it doesn't only convert, it can also copy. If you feel comfortable using your native tools, please. We encourage customers to use whatever they feel comfortable with. So you start with the schema. Once the schema is ready, you start moving the data. So this is where DMS comes into play. This is where when the data moves. How does it work? It's a service. It's a service. You have the database on the customer premise, and you have AWS on the other side. What we do is we start a replication engine, which is an instance, an EC2 instance with the replication engine. And we start moving the database, the data on the database, as we define. As I mentioned, we have two modes. We have the full load mode and then the CDC, the change data capture, the ones that moves the changes afterward. Once the databases are in sync, you switch. Now, what I'm missing in this presentation is our multi-AZ capabilities. You're familiar with the multi-AZ capability? Okay. So we have in DMS the same capability where you can have two instances of DMS. So if one fails, then the other one kicks in and picks up from when the first one fails. Again, for high availability, we recommend using multi-AZ in two scenarios. The first scenario is once you're done testing and now it's time to move the production database. You don't want any failures, or usually there aren't, but you don't want to have any chance of failure. This is where we recommend using the multi-AZ. And the second one is when you're using a replication. When, as I mentioned before, you have a read replica configuration, or you want to keep two environments in sync. This is where we recommend using multi-AZ. So, how does the load work? It works, first of all, table by table, okay? It moves one table at a time. On the DMS instance, we run the DMS tasks, okay? The DMS tasks, again, we have on the website the documentation how to optimize running the tasks so you don't run into resource constraints or any performance issues. Once the tables move, as I mentioned before, we start reading from the change log and start replicating the data. Now, there are limitations here, as I mentioned. They are all documented. For example, in Oracle, so we support changes in the data. Okay? For example, if you've changed your store procedure in the migration process, it will not be replicated to the target. Okay? Only the data that was impacted would be replicated. We are working to improve the service. We are working to add more objects. But again, this is a logical replication that replicates data. You can consolidate. As I mentioned, very popular use case is consolidation of MySQL shards. But you can also break table or shard databases if you want to do it. Again, you can
What happens if the truncate runs from the source? Truncate is the migration, a truncate table.
Yeah.
It's a data.
Yeah. You can take all the data, or you can pick, and in my demo I will show you that I've not taken all the data, or at least not all the columns. Homogeneous, heterogeneous, we spoke about it. And we do warehouses as well. I promised this slide before, but I'll show it again. This is where you'll get all the sample databases and all the recipes and instructions how to migrate and how to mostly heterogeneous migrations. You'll have Oracle to Aurora, SQL Server to Aurora, Oracle to Redshift, Oracle to Postgres, instructions and sample databases. So, I'm going into my DMS. So this is my DMS. This is the AWS console. If I go to my RDS console, you'll see that I have two instances running that I've defined. One of them is an Aurora database. The other one is an Oracle database. And if I look at my DB Beaver and I look at the Oracle, I have here a schema called master. It has a number of tables. This is a store with a number of tables. For example, I have a list of albums. This is the list of albums. I did not go over the list and pick the ones that I like, but I see that there are a few ones here. Now I go to my DMS console, and I have the walkthrough, the get started, the wizard. I'm not going to do it right now, but it gives you instructions step by step how to set up a migration. Again, there are two elements here. There's the elements of the instance. The instance itself is an EC2 machine running with with a predefined memory. You can extend the memory. Running with the DMS service on top of it. And on the EC2 machine, on this DMS instance, you can run the tasks. And each task you can define which tables it needs to, which schemas, which tables, which, all the other elements that you want to define on the tasks. It's a simple service, but it can get very complex. It has very complex use cases. So if I look, for example, of the instances, I have 2 instances running right now, and I have a number of tasks. So let's go and create a task. Okay, and the task name, Percona demo. And the replication instance, again, the machine that I'm running on, choose this one, and I chose Oracle as my source, and the Aurora instance as my target. And by the way, starting today, you can also migrate to Aurora Postgres. So Aurora Postgres is in beta, public beta. You can use DMS to migrate data to Aurora Postgres. Question? No. All right. Awesome. So here you have 3 options. You can migrate full load and changes, or only changes. So we're going to do full load because there aren't any changes to our demo database. And I have options. What to do is the tables on target, lob require a little bit more configuration because of their size and how they are treated, because the replication engine copies the lob locally to the engine and then to the target database. So it requires a little bit of more preparation on the memory size and understanding the lob size. We have the best practices in our documentation. And now here is where I can define which schemas, which tables, which content I want to take. I'm not going to do it here. I've prepared one task in advance. I called it a run practice. And sorry, why is it not? Weird.